Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Jim?
Fantastic. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining.
Great to be here.
Awesome. I think we ought to have around 20 or so additional attendees joining very shortly.
Awesome.
And monitor that. Where's the chat? Gonna monitor chat for questions. And boy, the holidays are great. It's always nice to, have that time off and time with
absolutely
family and friends, although it always goes by too quickly.
Yeah, it tends to do that every single year, and it seems to go faster.
Welcome, Sue. She's connecting. Welcome, Sue.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Here with David Higgins, one of our award nominees.
Oh, great. Well, hi, David.
Hi, Sue. How are you today?
Good.
Imagine Cheryl.
We are swamped here today.
Really?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it seems like the pace has been pretty fast, and workload's been pretty heavy the last few months, and which makes that holiday time and vacation that much more special.
Yes, it does.
Welcome, Ryan. Good afternoon.
Hello.
We're here with David and Sue. Ryan, as you know, is another award nominee. So proud to have you and David join us, and hopefully additional award nominees can join us today.
Yes.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
Sure glad it warmed up.
Oh my gosh, me too.
I believe Cher is in Columbus, Ohio, so I'm not going to complain. We're very blessed in Florida.
Yeah. It's 69 here, and it's still cold for me. So.
Yeah, it's definitely cold at 70 degrees and low. I'm from Ohio originally. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, and northeastern Ohio, and I'm familiar with the winters and the ice and the cold. And about 9 years ago, I said enough of this. I'm out of here. So I moved down here to the Orlando area, and people ask me all the time, "Are you going to go back?" And that's a really thought-provoking question, because you still have friends, maybe a little family up there, and then I realized there's no way I'm going back up there and dealing with that. I got out of there as fast as I could.
Timing is key. Good afternoon, Christy.
Hi, Jim.
Thanks for showing. Good afternoon, Sala. Everybody's joining in. Happy Wednesday.
Hello. Happy Wednesday.
Welcome, Joe.
Good afternoon, Jim. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hey there.
We got kickoff in 1 minute. So I think a lot more folks are going to be joining in.
How warm is it in Florida today? I'm going to live vicariously through you guys.
72, according to where I am.
Below zero.
Yeah, my thermometer says 69, so I'm wearing a sweater.
Ryan, I'm at headquarters today, and it's freezing here.
Oops.
I mean, outside and inside. That's the problem.
So you're saying it's like 60 degrees there?
No, I mean, I'd be so excited if it was.
Welcome,
Somebody say
Shara.
60. Did somebody say 60 degrees? Where?
Balmy.
Not in Michigan, Shara, not in Michigan. And not in Ohio either, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 12:31, and like the NFL playoffs, we want to start on time. I'm Jim Rive, as most of you know, the president of our Central Florida chapter and MC for this afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a joyous holiday season, and look forward to a very special event today. We're going to recognize several outstanding people, and we have a star presenter with a very timely topic that'll be very valuable for each of us. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And can everybody see the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So we're going to start off with some HDI news. Then we're also going to have an award presentation, followed by a great presentation by Shara Hutchinson, Leading Through Change While Keeping Your Employees and your customers happy. And then we'll have a Q&A and a wrap up. I'd like to start off by thanking my local chapter officers who help in every aspect of our chapter operations, Joe Alexander, Sugi Liberti, and James Moore. I'd also like to thank our fantastic sponsors. We have Robert Half, who is not only our chapter sponsor, but the sponsor of our annual awards that are presented at our annual conferences. We've got Drive Savers, Easy Vista, Icera, Amatas, Tech Systems, Apex Systems, Mimecast, and OnTrack. And there are links to each of them on our HDICFL.com website. We appreciate their support. Upcoming HDI events. Coming up in this spring, the week of May 16th, is warmer weather, and Support World Live at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, which promises to be an outstanding event. Hopefully all of you can join. And then at the usual scheduled time, November 14th, that week, we have Service Management World in Orlando at the Champions Gate Resort. We're planning additional chapter events such as web meetings such as this one, and ideally in-person meetings, which is what we all prefer. And so you'll see those on the right side of our website, HDICFL.com. Remember that HDI membership is free, a free sign up. So you can go onto our website under membership and get a free membership and access to the wealth of resources that are available in terms of best practice publications and just a wealth of presentations. There's also a paid membership that entitles you to discounts at each of our annual conferences. The $149 annual membership provides a $150 discount on each of those conferences, as well as discounts on training. Our nonprofit chapter also gets a portion when you use our chapter code. If you do not have our paid member chapter code, please reach out to me via email and I will send it to you. In addition, the HDI certifications and training courses have been greatly expanded and updated. There is a link in this presentation, which will be posted by tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., as well as a recording of this presentation. There's also a link on the website that gives you the most current course calendar. And with that, I would like to recognize our 2022 HDI Central Florida Chapter Award nominees for HDI's Best Service and Support Analyst. I've certainly had the sincere privilege of meeting and speaking with every one of them, and it is an honor simply to be nominated for this annual award. I'd like to recognize Eric Donat of Health First, Ryan Druhan of Kelly Services, David Higgins of Orlando Health, Lawrence Hill of Health First, and Anthony Romaglia of Lockheed Martin. Congratulations on your impressive achievements and on exemplifying the best of the best to your teams. Each nominee will be receiving a framed HDI certificate, as well as an official HDI letter of congratulations recognizing their achievements. In addition, the award winner will receive a trophy, and they will move on to the district-wide, which is a larger regional competition, and the winners will be announced at Support World Live in May. Each nominee, as I mentioned, exemplifies excellence for their teams, outstanding customer service, team leadership and mentoring, a passion for teamwork that typically includes selfless contributions outside of work on their own personal time. And the evaluation process was very competitive. There was the written nomination by the nominator, as well as the evaluation of the web conference interview with each of the nominees that covered customer experience, team commitment, knowledge sharing, leadership, and technical aptitude. So it was an extremely competitive process. Was scored by several judges, and I just want to say it certainly was an honor to speak to each one of you. I know Ryan and David are on the call right now, and hopefully others have been able to join, but each nominee is truly an inspiration to their entire team. So with that, the winner of our 2022 HDI Best Service and Support Analyst Award is, drum roll, David Higgins. Congratulations, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. That means so much. It's very humbling. It's an honor and a privilege to win this award. You know, something that's always spoken to me that I relayed to Jim during our interview is something that I learned with the Shriners Hospital for Children. That's where I do a lot of volunteer work as a Shriner and a Freemason there. And that is, you know, just doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And all of us are in a very special field, and we have a direct impact to our customers and our end users. So thank you to all of you. And also thank you to everybody that goes out there every single day to provide support for technology, and you can see the impacts nationwide and even globally. So again, thank you so much. It means a lot to me.
Awesome. Congratulations again, David. And all nominees should be receiving their certificates and letters within a couple of weeks. And the trophy was just ordered, so that might take about 3.5 to 4 weeks to get to you, David. And I'm sure you'll be very pleased with it.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. I'm going to just definitely display that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker. I had the pleasure of meeting Shara and her family at the HDI Annual Summit for Local Chapter Officers last October in Buffalo, New York. And I was extremely impressed with her passion, high energy, wealth of knowledge and experience. Shara is the CEO of Expose Your. She's a TEDx speaker and international best-selling author of books including Barefoot in the Boardroom, Every Leader's Guide to Navigating Change. She's also co-author of One Habit of the World's Greatest Leaders, Life-Changing Habits to Unlock Your True Leadership Potential, that promulgates that even adopting one of these habits can literally change your life for the better. She's a technology-oriented executive and customer success professional with 17 years of leadership, proven track record of developing and implementing operational strategies and technologies that creatively enhance the customer experience while supporting key business initiatives. Would like to give a warm Central Florida welcome to Shara Hutchinson. Welcome, Shara.
Thank you, Jim. And of course, you use the word warm welcome when it's cold here and snowing. So thank you for the reminder. So I will go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Great, I do have access to do that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let me move your faces over here so I can see you. There you are. So if you see me looking around like this, it's just because I have 3 monitors. And so like I have your face here, my presentation on one place, the chat up, so I can try to juggle everything at one time. But today I'm going to talk about navigating change while keeping yourself, employees, and customers happy. You'll probably notice a slight change in the title because I added the word yourself in there, because after I thought about what I was presenting and who I was presenting to and thinking about the HDI Analyst of the Year Award, I recognize that this has been a tough 2 years, but since you're being recognized for your achievements last year, I didn't want to leave that out for individuals. And so we're going to talk about that today. A little bit about me. Jim gave you an overview of me. I mean, I should have just gave him these four or five bullet points instead of reading the whole bio, but I am a mom. Fun fact about me, I have a 3-year-old, and I actually went through 4 rounds of IVF and 8 years to have my son. And so the TEDx talk was actually about my journey to have my son. So I always share that because I never know who's going through something or going through a similar journey. The company that I'm the CEO of, Exposure, we're consulting and training agency that focuses on leadership and change management with my trademark methodology, the Barefoot Method, which is actually going to be released in my book, Barefoot in the Boardroom, coming up. And so again, I'm an author as well. So something that I learned this past year, and I'm going to let you know now, I am interactive, right? So I don't want to be like a talking head. And so there's going to be several moments that I may ask you a question and I want you to participate. So this past year, maybe 2 years, I learned that it's okay to be human at work. I mean, I don't think I knew that before the pandemic. I mean, I was kind of like a machine going. And because the whole entire world and everybody at the organizations that I was, working with was going through the same just emotional, physical toll, just so much things going on. We started asking each other, like, how are you today? Not how's your project, not how's the customers, not did you respond, but like, how are you? And so I implemented this into my presentations, especially when I do virtual, to ask, like, how are you doing? And so I want everybody to take a moment, look at the pictures on the screen from 1 to 8, and just put in the chat the number that best represents how you feel right now. I am going to say, I feel like a 1. You don't have the copy I've made. So we have 2, we have some 1s. Everybody's jumping up for joy. Do I see anything else? Anybody else want to share just kind of how you feel today? If you're overwhelmed, if you're on internet is stable off. Yeah, that can make you feel that way. Yeah. And it's good. I like what somebody says, honestly, number 5. I think it's literally, I learned through the pandemic that it is okay to not be okay sometimes and say it. It's also okay to have a good day when somebody else is not having a good day and to support them. And if you don't walk away with anything else from today, I think be kind to everybody, because you never know what they're going through. I want to also say congratulations to all of the nominees, but also now that I know David, I didn't prepare to say your name, David, because I didn't know that you won, but congratulations. I think when I look back over this past year, like I said, and everything that we've all encountered, whether it be at work or at home, to still be able to provide great customer service and be acknowledged for your technical expertise, your teamwork, your knowledge sharing, your commitment to provide a great customer experience. It speaks volumes. And I'm not saying that this year or last year are any greater than any of the other years, but I think considering everything that's happening, I think it's notable. Someone needs to mute. I think it's notable. So again, congratulations to everyone. So overview of what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about organizational changes. We're going to talk about individual changes. We're going to talk about discussing tips for navigating those individual changes, tips for navigating organizational changes. Then there'll be an option for any questions, comments, and then if you want to stay connected with me, I'll give you some information after that. So I want you to think about, did your organization experience any changes in the past 18 months? I'm willing to bet yes. Just about every organization. Am I muted?
Nope, we can hear you.
See, okay, that was me again, looking all around to see the chat, so I'm not muted. Good. So I'm willing to bet that every organization has encountered some sort of change. And so I want you to take a moment, if you have your phone, scan this QR code, or go to the website menti.com, and then as soon as you go to that site, just type in the code 4547690 and just answer that question of which two options best describes the most significant change your department or organization experienced in 2021. I'll also go ahead and add that in the chat if it'll help. Got some answers that came in. I'm going to go ahead and share those. Move this screen over here. So people are still answering. So it looks like by and large, the top changes that everyone's organization has faced is restructuring of the team as number one, working remotely or working hybrid, number two, and then retention and staffing issues. How many of you have heard of the Great Resignation? I think it's been retitled now to the Great Reshuffling, because people are reshuffling, and that is a huge change, because organizations are losing talent, right? Who has been there for years and has some fundamental knowledge that only they have in their brains, and taking it to another organization. And this, I heard a speaker say the other day that this is the first time, in history that she could think of where you could literally go to another place of employment and make a lateral move and not have a decrease in pay, and many times have an increase, because years ago, right, if you would leave your job and go into an entirely new industry, you would have to start at entry level and then learn the industry. Now you can go and take your skill set, right, and just start at the level that you're at and learn the industry, because organizations recognize that they can't teach passion, they can't teach skill, but they can teach the industry. And so I think the reshuffling is not a bad thing. And sometimes when people have been in a position for so long, or in a company so long, you may not be as innovative. So sometimes going somewhere else is not a bad thing. So I'm not surprised to see these numbers. Thanks for sharing. And much like what I saw from you all, my conversations with leaders have been around the same topics, right? They're dealing with team engagement and retention, managing hybrid work, having missed targets due to staffing or production shortages, revenue and customer satisfaction, innovation and sustainability is on the top of their mind. Ensuring teams are driving the business results they need to be able to navigate the times. There's a lot of changes happening. And so my conversations with other leaders is not different than what you are going through. I missed the slide. I wanted to also share this, that from a couple reports that I read, 69% of companies restructured their teams during the pandemic. So it doesn't surprise me that that was one of the top, the top responses from you all, right? Because organizations realize in order to be more efficient, in order to sustain and scale their teams with the time, restructuring sometimes needed to take place. 25% of employees said they will quit post-COVID, which is interesting, right? 97% of CEOs are allowing some degree of remote work moving forward, meaning, of course, you've heard this is nothing new. Remote work is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So you think about restructuring of teams, you think about retention, you think about customer satisfaction, and all of the changes that we have gone through in our organizations. They're pretty big. And there's a saying that says, how do you eat an elephant, right? I don't really say, how do you eat an elephant? I say, how can you eat an elephant if you don't know an elephant is on the menu, right? Because what happened in 2020 and 2021, we were not prepared for that. We had no idea that was coming. And when you look at the image that's on the screen here, sometimes you don't know an elephant is on the menu simply because of where you're seated, simply because of your perspective, simply because of how you're looking at things. There's only a couple of people, right, that are in this image who would probably know that they're looking at an elephant for sure. And so the person that's sitting in the block of A definitely will be able to tell, like they're at the elephant tusk, the trunk. They're like, okay, this is an elephant. The person that's sitting at B, they see the elephant's ear and they pretty much know it's an elephant. Everybody else may be able to tell, but they may not be able to tell based on their vantage point. And so context matters. And so that's why when you think about organizational changes and providing great customer experience, you also want to think about, where are you seated at in your emotions? Where are you seated at and how you feel in your life and the individual changes that you are experiencing? In order to navigate organizational change successfully, you must be able to navigate individual change successfully. It's difficult, right, to navigate a change and when your whole world is going upside down. And that's why I really wanted to take that moment to commend not just David for winning, but all the nominees, because I'm sure that it wasn't easy to continue to provide great service when maybe you were going through things of your own. So I want you to do another favor for me. Go to the same site or scan this QR code, and there's going to be a new question that pops up. And I want you to think about, what one word would you use to describe 2022? What one word would you use? And just type the word in and I'll share. I just want to see if we're all on the same page of what we're thinking, and seeing kind of just how your year went. Evolution. I love that. Change. Abysmal. I'm gonna put this on the screen so we can see the words. Evolution, transition, abysmal, exhausting mentally, change, adjustments, tough, crazy busy, ambiguity, all of those words. I've experienced all of that throughout the year as well. And when you think about change, you think about change is tough. When things change, they can get ambiguous, right? You don't know what's going on. Change can also be exhausting mentally when you don't know what's happening. You can feel isolated. You can feel alone. You can feel like I have to make these adjustments but going through all of that, good comes out of it, right? You have transition, you have evolution, you have sometimes the greatest inventions come out of a problem. Like if there's never a problem, you don't have to be creative. You know, doing customer experience or technical support, right? If there's no problems that come in, there's no reason for you to solve any problems. And I'm sure there's times where you get a case or a ticket in and you begin to research it and you like look at yourself and you're like, well, this is exhausting mentally, like trying to figure this one out. This is tough. I may need to have some help. And I have a lot of other tickets and a lot of other things. So it's crazy busy. I'm going to have to make some adjustments to the way that I'm researching this to find out what I need to do. And maybe there needs to be an evolution in the way that I solve problems, right? Because maybe the way that I solved the past 20 tickets is not the same way that I'm going to solve this one, or the way that I navigated this particular change is not going to be the same way that I navigate the next change. And so it is okay. It is okay to change. Thank you for sharing that. My one word was roller coaster. My journey with change felt like it took me through like an entire roller coaster, not a bad roller coaster, but just a roller coaster where it was like up and down and up and down. And so I had conversations with myself that I want to share with you from throughout the year. So the first thing I thought when the pandemic hit, I'm a type A personality and I am a producer. I'm a driver. I get things done. So I'm like, I'm going to get so much done because the world is slowing down, but they're not going to slow me down. I'm going to be like getting a lot done. And that's how it started. Then I went so hard that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? I deserve a break. Like, I'm glad that it slowed down. I'm glad that I don't have to go anywhere. I can count these boards that I'm serving on. This, I don't have to go in the office. I don't have to drive. I can rest and relax. Then after I had the moment of like, I deserve a break, then I went to what I call the PFTWU, professional from the waist up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even getting dressed. I am going to have, you don't even know I have on my gray sweatpants right now, but I'll put my little blazer on, my shirt, and I'm not taking the time to do anything extra. That's just how I felt, right? Then when I left from here, then I was like, you know what? I have no idea what to do. So I went from like, I know all these things to do to, I have no idea what to do. And I felt like a fish out of water. And then the perpetual take your child to work day happened, where his daycare was shut down temporarily. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so I said, you know what? This might be a great thing. He's home. I'm home. He's going to be sleeping. He's going to be bringing me flowers. He's going to sit there and play. We're going to play with boxes together. And we're going to do all these. And I just had this like, I'm going to be closer to my baby. I waited 8 years to have him and did all these rounds of IVF. This is going to be a beautiful thing. But then let me tell you how it really was. First of all, I caught him on video breaking my cell phone. And so I found my phone with the screen crack sitting on the dining room table as if nothing happened. I'm like, how did this happen? And I go to my camera and look at all the previous photos. And what you see on the left-hand side was like him in the midst of dropping my phone. And so my phone was taking pictures of him, I guess like snap, 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 along the way till finally it fell on the floor and cracked. And so he didn't tell me he broke the phone. I have to find out through my investigative measures because my phone was smart enough to take these pictures. Then, right, I'm in meetings and he's in the basement standing on top of the couch, looking out the window. And I'm like, stop, get down. What are you doing? And like screaming. And, I wasn't really screaming at him, but I'm like, I don't want you to fall. And and one day I was on a call with somebody. I'm like, stop. And they're like, what am I doing? What do you mean? I was like, no, not you. My son, he's standing right on top of the couch and I don't want him to fall on the floor. And then I'm like, all right, let me take a break, a lunch break, right? Get him something to eat. And then I made him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and cut the sandwich in half. And he starts crying. And I'm like, I need to snap a picture of this. Like, so all of this happening at the same time that I'm working, right? And so I don't know what your home situation was like. You may have had your cat climbing across your fingers. You may have maybe sitting in close proximity to your whole family. I've worked with people that they were homeschooling all their kids at the same table and working, and it was a lot, right? Just going through the transition and having to merge your work life and your home life. And then God forbid if you and the people in your house aren't getting along and you still have to sit there with them, you're like, oh my gosh, get out of my face. Oh, you can't get out of my face because you can't go anywhere because the world is shut down. And so now you got to deal with that. And so just going through all that emotion, and then customers calling and you got to help them. And then I went to the who cares phase, right? So after dealing with all that, my husband set our deck on fire. So that picture on the right, somehow he was out on the back deck and decided to grill. And then he put the hot coals, he thought they were cooled off. He put the hot coals in the trash can and left outside. I'm washing dishes probably about several hours later, and I see flames just up. Like the deck is in flames. I'm like, and I don't know why, because I had went through all these phases already. I wasn't even phased. I was like, looks like there's a fire on the deck. I wonder, is that real? You know how you go through so much, you're like, that can't be. And so I just didn't even do anything for a little bit. And then I went and got my husband. I'm like, is our deck on fire? And he went out there, he's like, yeah. So he's like hosing it down and everything. But I was at the point where I'm like, who cares? Who cares what happens? And so sometimes when you're going through all these things as an individual, and you still have to bring your whole self to work and act as if everything's fine and still serve your customers and still be nice to the people you work with and still get your work done, it can be a lot emotionally, right? So you want to learn, how do you navigate that so that you can be the best that you can be? And then I got to the point where I'm like, I should just quit. Like from my son running around to him breaking my phone, to the deck being caught on fire, to the pandemic and not being able to go places. I'm like, I should just quit. I'm just done. What should I do? And then finally I got to the place where I feel like it was a great place, right? I said, you know what? If I can't change what I am dealing with, I'll have to change my attitude. I'll have to change the way that I look at it. I have to change my position on the chart so I can see the elephant to know which bites to eat. And I decided to be happy despite what happened and not allow all of the external things to impact me internally. And so I want to share with you 10 ways that as you're navigating through change individually, that you can be happy no matter what, right? Because I think this is important, as I mentioned earlier, in change, you are changing as an individual, your organization is changing, but if you fall apart, you won't be any good for your household or your organization. So you want to take care of yourself. So the first thing is be present. One of the things that I realized is I was working all day, and my son was probably running around and jumping because he wanted attention. He wanted more time with me. And instead of me saying, Smooth, get out of my way, I'm trying to do other stuff, I realized I actually have more time to spend with him. And so I don't need to work all day just because I'm remote, because I had got to the place where I no longer had the drive or the commute. So I just kept working past my time because I felt like I could get so much done. So I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be present and enjoy the little moments. The second thing is do what's essential. There was a lot of talk about essential workers. What about working and doing the essentials? And there's a principle that you've probably heard of called the Pareto principle, which is meaning that 80% of the results come from 20% of the tasks. And sometimes we end up doing a whole lot of things. And have any of you ever felt like you had too much on your plate? I think one of the words that somebody wrote up there on the describing your 2021 was too busy, right? Very busy. Well, sometimes when you're busy, you want to make sure you're busy doing the right things. And so the way to filter that out and to find the 20% of the tasks that could actually get you the most bang for your buck or the most impact is to learn the 4 Ds and to filter everything you do through those. So like, can you delegate it? Meaning, do you have to do this yourself or can somebody else do it? And sometimes we feel like nobody else can do it. Nobody can do it like me. And so I'm going to take all the stuff on. And then we take it on and we're overwhelmed. And we're like, why did I take this on? Now I don't have any time to myself. But if you can delegate it and they can do it at least 70% of the way, delegate it. And delegation is not always to a person. Sometimes delegation is to a system. If you can automate something to get done, then automate it. You know, my husband at his job, you know, he was telling me about one of the developers had a process that he needed to manually do every day. And he found a way to write a script to automate it so that process just runs, right? And sometimes we're going. We don't realize there is a way to delegate a task out so that we don't have to do it and not be as busy. The next thing is defer. Asking yourself, does this actually have to be done now? There's been times where I felt like, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. And then I get overwhelmed and I'll pause and I'll say, wait a minute, who told me that I have to do these things? Is this a undue pressure that I put on myself? Can this really wait or is it actually needed right now? And so when you're at your most busiest, I think stop and ask yourself that question. Number one, does it have to be done by me? Number two, does it actually have to be done now? And then the next one is delete. Like, does it have to be done at all? If you can defer something week after week after week, then chances are maybe you don't need to do it and maybe it's not that important at all. Or, you know, sometimes you do all these tasks and then next thing you know, your manager or another leader or somebody says, oh, we're changing directions. You go, wait a minute, I did all this stuff and now you're changing up on me. And so asking yourself, does it have to be done at all? And then if it has to be done now and it has to be done by you and it has to be done, period, then you do it and you do it that day. So do what's essential. The third thing is set boundaries for yourself and for others. I had to learn this because people would just walk to my office and then when you and just interrupt and I like helping people, so I would allow them to do that. But in the virtual world, it's a little different, right? Because people are chatting you and you're using Slack, you're using Teams, you're using WebEx, whatever you're using for chat. And then so people need this instant gratification and response now, and they'll send you an email, right? And then they'll send you a chat and say, hey, did you get the email? And it's like, you just sent the email. I'm in a meeting. No, I didn't get that yet, right? But if you find a way to respond to people, to every single chat while you're in meetings and while you're getting work done, then what you're communicating is you can interrupt me anytime. And you're setting a boundary for them to do that. And so sometimes you have to train people how to interact with you. The fourth thing is avoid perfectionism. Sometimes we get overwhelmed because everything has to be done perfect. And I'm not saying you don't want to do things excellently and do things right and be accurate. I'm just saying sometimes done is better than perfect. And there's a quote that I read a while back. Hopefully I can remember it because it's not in my notes, but it says, perfect is not when there's nothing left to add, but it's when there's nothing left to take away. And so sometimes we think, I got to add this and I got to add this and I got to do this. It's like, no, it's perfect when there's nothing left to take away and you can leave it that way. Number 5, talk about solutions, not problems. You know, like if you've ever been around somebody who talks about problems, there's people that are really good at saying this is not going to work and that doesn't work, but that doesn't help, right? Like it doesn't help at all to identify that something is not going to work and identify that there's a problem. It's like, okay, we are in this place, but what can we do? It's just like with customer experience, right? As a customer, you probably don't want to hear, we can't do that, or for somebody to tell you no. You want to hear, hey, we're not able to do this. However, what we can do is this. And it's the same way in our work, right? We want to talk about solutions, not problems, so that we're not creating unnecessary stress for ourselves and others. Embrace the change. Change is not always a bad thing. In fact, change is good, but it doesn't feel good. And so sometimes in our minds, we're replaying, oh my gosh, this is not the way it used to be. And, this is happening and that's happening and this is different and that's different. And we're spending our energy focused on that rather than saying kind of the place that the epiphany that I had was like, you know what, if I can't change this, I can change my attitude. I can control how I feel about it. And I can change what I tell myself about it. Number 7, take time off. Like, I know people that very rarely take a vacation or tell me, I don't have time to take a break. It's like, if you don't have time to take a break, you're too busy. Block time off on your calendar every day. Like, there was a time where I was so busy, right, that I had to learn, I got to take a break. So I started blocking off 15 minutes just to step away from my computer. And you know what I found out? And stepping away for a few minutes, it actually helped me to be more productive. You ever have a situation where you can't figure something out and you're stuck and you go away and you come back to your computer, or days pass and you're like, I figured it out. And you figured it out while you weren't doing it because your mind had a chance to relax. So sometimes you have to, taking a break is also unplugging from the news, unplugging from social media, from your phone. There's so many, negative, things coming at us that sometimes you just have to unplug and take time off for your own mental health. Which leads me to 8 about intentionally unplugging. Number 9, do something fun. Find out what's fun for you and do it. And then encourage someone else. Sometimes, helping somebody else helps you. And once you've taken care of yourself, you are better equipped to give 100% to your organization and your customers. Then you can relax, right? And take your shoes off. And I say take your shoes off because remember, I have my own change management methodology called the barefoot method that I use with clients, and that's outlined in my book. But you have to get yourself together first so that you can be whole for the organization. And then in closing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my barefoot method just at a high level of how you navigate through the changes of your organization. When I think back to the words that were on the screen about change, and it was adjustments, it was tough, it was challenging, it was crazy busy, you felt isolated, it was abysmal, it was a transition, it was exhausting, it was change, it was evolution, it was ambiguity, it was all those things, right? But even in all those things, there's a way to navigate. Like, so for example, it was snowing here in Columbus, Ohio, where I live. And, in driving the other day, my husband was driving and his tires got caught under the snow, and he had to change the way he was turning the steering wheel because the snow got caught under the tires and he began to slide almost off the road. And you would think that you would turn the way that you're going, but actually in the midst of snow, you turn the opposite direction so your car can kind of level out. And that's kind of how change is, right? It's sometimes you have to turn your wheel a different way and do something different, like take your shoes off and be barefoot, right? To navigate that change. So when you're navigating change, there's a few 8 things really that you're going to do. Is number 1, you're going to break out of the norms, break out of old habits, and even old ways of thinking. Like, you have to just settle in your mind, things are not going back to the way they used to be. As long as you're thinking that it is, then you'll be frustrated. It's just like, break out of the norms and say, you know what, I have to accept that things are changing, and I need to be able to change and grow with the change. You need to break out of negative cultural behaviors, right? Like, sometimes you have a culture. I've talked to different organizations of people where there's a culture of like, people are afraid to make a mistake, right? But you have to break out of that, because if people aren't allowed to make mistakes, then they aren't allowed to also innovate, right? And so breaking out of those norms, you need to create a safe space where people feel like, you know what, I can take a chance. And success is not success the first time. It is failing 99 times and getting it right the 100th. But if your culture doesn't allow you to fail, then you won't get it right the 100th, and then you'll stay at the same place. And so when you innovate and come up with new ideas, test them out. The next thing is for the A is assess where you are. Like when you're going through changes, it's a good time to reflect, because you have to know where you are to determine where you are going and how much effort is going to take to get there. So as an organization, knowing, do you have the resources in your team set up in a way, right, that is that complements where you're going and that supports your initiatives, which is also why a lot of organizations restructured, because the way it was structured was for the old way. And in order to scale with the times and be relevant, they had to do things a new way, right? When you think about, how many of you remember Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster, I read an article that said that the president CEO of Blockbuster at the time that Netflix came out had the opportunity to buy Netflix. And I think Netflix was going to change the name to like Blockbuster, right? And the president, CEO said, no, I don't want change. I think people are going to always want to come in here and get these VCRs and DVDs. What are you talking about? You know, mailing out movies and thinking about doing things a different way. He didn't see that the digital age coming. And so when you assess where you are and you assess also where you're going and where the industry is going, you have to push yourself a little bit, right? And think about, do you want to be relevant 5 years from now? What about your department? If your whole company changes, and as a leader or as a support person or as an individual contributor or whatever position you're in, if you don't develop and change, will you be relevant when the organization gets to its next level? The R is reposition people as needed, right? Like, so sometimes I've led people and we both agreed that, hey, this is not the best position for your skill set. Let's find somewhere else in the organization that you fit, right? Or sometimes a person is doing really well in their role and they have potential to do something else. And so acknowledging them and recognizing them for that, and not letting your top performers sit dormant, or somebody sit and be miserable in a position when their skill set is better suited somewhere else. And so that also is a part of that restructuring, right? Because people also in this pandemic realized, I'm unhappy in this role. I want to do something that makes me happy. I want to feel good about the work I do. I want to feel like I'm making a difference. I want to feel like I'm making an impact. I want to feel like I'm growing and developing. So sometimes people need to be positioned, and sometimes we have to reposition ourselves. The E is execute. Execute on the goals you have. There's nothing worse than having a plan and not carrying it through. It is, executing. And then there's a proper way to execute, right? And it leads into F, which is follow up. Having follow-up conversations that close the loop. So once you execute something, there's nothing worse to me. Well, I won't say nothing worse, but one of the things that is one of my pet peeves, I'll rephrase that, is someone telling me that there is an issue that they need to be resolved, and they say they're going to take it on, and then I never hear anything else about it. No follow-up, no nothing. And then I have to go back and say, hey, was that thing taken care of? Oh yeah, I took care of it. But where's the follow-up, right? Like when you're, that slows you down. When you're in the midst of change, the extra step of, hey, remember customer A, B, C, D, I followed up. Here was the solution. Here's what we did. Here was the response. It's been taken care of. And even, leaders and your team will appreciate that, because it saves time from having to ask unnecessary questions and waste time. The first O is operationalize the changes. So the change, whatever is being implemented, should be a part of the day-to-day. You ever have a change rolled out, like a new process or a new software or a new something, and you guys used it for like 2 weeks, and then you're like, nobody even notices that we're not using it. I'm not following that process because nobody cares. And it's because it wasn't operationalized. It's because it wasn't embedded in the culture, that there was no follow-up, and there was no measurements of success. There was no saying, oh, okay, so this is a part of our day-to-day operations, and here's what we're going to check on to make sure that it's working. The next O is opportunities for sustainability should be investigated. So I kind of touched on that earlier, where, you know, as a leader or as an individual contributor, you want to think about what opportunities are out there. Thinking about opportunities, it could be your competitors or customer feedback, and seeing what are customers saying. So do they like your CRM platform? Do they like when you chat with them, or do they prefer email? Do they prefer phone call? Like, customers, they give us golden nuggets when they give us feedback. And taking the time to not just look at the scores and the ratings, but looking at the actual comments for feedback, to be able to say, are there any common themes, similar to like the word cloud that I did earlier with like your one word for 2021 of how you would describe it. And there were themes, right? So when you take customer feedback and you group it, you can find themes, and you can be proactive and say, hey, I noticed that X% of our customers feel this way, or they're saying this. Do we think we want to make an adjustment to how we operate, so that we can be scalable, right? And because the customers right now, there's a quote that says the customer experience is the new battleground, and it's true. With social media out there, with all the stuff, one bad comment could cause somebody to go to a competitor. And so you want to use that feedback for opportunities. And then the T is tracking your timeline, and having clearly defined timelines for when you want to have changes implemented, when you want to measure the effectiveness of the change, and when you want to have the project completed, or have whatever you're implementing. And so that is, in a nutshell, what the barefoot method is. So when you go through kind of all the stages that I talked about earlier, as it pertains to your individual changes that you're going through, thinking about the changes that your organization is going through, and you apply those 10 ways to remain happy as an individual, so that you can navigate your personal changes, you can break out of the norms, you can assess where you are, you can reposition, you can execute, you can follow up, you can operationalize changes, you can find new opportunities to be able to sustain your growth and get to the next level. And then you can meet your deadlines. And then as a result, you'll be happier, your employees will be happier, and your customers will be happier. Here's my information. If you want to stay connected to me, I'm going to give you a moment to, if you want to ask me any questions, or if you have any comments. Again, I like to be relational. Here's my website here. I do have some assessments if you want to take. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do the questions first, and I'll say that later. So any comments or questions that you have, I'm going to pull the chat back up because I did not have it up while I was rambling. I like that. Joe said most important task is critical for right now. Is it urgent, or I like that, urgent or important? Nothing net new on our plates. All right. Yeah. Closing the loop. Any comments or questions? If you want to unmute and just share, I don't know, a question, or even just a feedback or something you feel like you took away.
So, like Jim had mentioned earlier, this is Joe speaking. I had a really great opportunity to meet you when we did the leadership up in Buffalo. So I'm blessed because I do feel like I pulled away some of those nuggets that we talked about and incorporated them over the past few months into my leadership style. So folks can glean those one or two things that can make your day more enjoyable, right? So we can be efficient and effective, but we don't have to be 100% just work driven. We can be ourselves. We can be human, like you mentioned earlier. And that change alone, I think, has been profound on my own work.
I love that.
Yeah, I've got to echo Mr. Alexander's statement. That's what you provided here. Definitely shows that human aspect, right? That everybody does have to deal with at some point. You don't always have the best day outside of work, and of course you have to balance what the right thing is to do versus how you're feeling in that moment. And being able to understand yourself as a human being really helps how you can relay information and provide either customer support or initiatives or just leadership in your environment.
Exactly. Yeah, I migrated my presentations after the pandemic to add in personal information, because I feel like, to Joe's point, we all have to be human and learn to be vulnerable and be able to say, no, today's not a good day. I do need some support. I may not be as productive today, and it's okay. You know, I before this, honestly, I didn't feel comfortable like doing that. And I always felt like I have to get all this stuff done because I have to prove something. And it's like, no, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I was trying to prove it to myself, but really I needed to learn to relax. Any other like questions or comments? Thank you. So I'll give my information again. If you want to stay connected to me, you can look me up on LinkedIn, visit my website. On my exposure website, I do have, under the resources tab, a couple of assessments to see how you navigate through change. If you're interested in taking those, they're at no cost. You can also, if you want to get updates from me, text barefoot to 21,000. Also on my website, you can sign up for articles and postings that I do on the Exposure Solutions website. And then I always like to get better. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to take a quick customer satisfaction survey. Again, we are talking to customer service professionals, so you're probably familiar with this, but I always like to make sure that I'm relevant. I like to make sure that everyone walks away with something, and that I walk away with something, like something that I can do better if there are any ideas. And so I put the link in the chat. Also, you can use that QR code. And I will say that Barefoot in the Boardroom is available for pre-order wherever books are sold. And so if you're interested in my book, feel free to pre-order it, or when you sign up for my updates on my website, you'll know like when it's out and everything like that, or if I have other speaking events going to that you want to be a part of. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to share this moment of celebration with you all.
Thank you, Shara. It's such a pleasure to have you with us, and very inspirational ideas and great food for thought. I know I'm going to adopt several that you have recommended. So it sounds like no additional questions. Thank you everybody for joining this afternoon. Congratulations to all of our HDI award nominees, and David and Ryan, thank you for joining us, as well as their nominators who also joined us, and Sala and Christy, and it's such a pleasure to recognize the best of the best. Thank you once again, Shara, for a valuable presentation, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful afternoon and a great week, and hope to see you soon at our next meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Our pleasure.